So, we tell another story, Pauline, because it's so fun living in this country and just trying to find out the truth. Just the truth. Nothing more. Just the truth. There's this maxim of law, Pauline, that says a lie can't become the truth through the passage of time. It's always going to remain a lie, Pauline. And all we wanted was the truth. So, I helped this kid in the back alley, right? And I got abused by the police, falsely arrested. End up before David Halpin, who then sends me to jail, Pauline. Sends me to jail. I mean, very spurious circumstances, if you ask me. Oh, I think you should dig. I think you should very, very, very deeply into that. Very spurious circumstances, Pauline. Treated in the most heinous ways possible. But I'm in this jail cell, Pauline, and I'm allowed to go out most of the day because I'm a minimum security offender. I mean, that Scottish guy with the Freemason ring, he asked me a question. You aren't going to play with my guards, are you? And my answer was, it depends if they've got pips on their shoulders. And he was cool with that. Because there weren't very many pips around, were there? But one day, I was sitting there reading my Bible, Pauline, reading my Bible. Now, it took me a long time to get this Bible because they don't want you to have this type of Bible inside the jail. It's called a King James Bible. You won't find one in the New South Wales jail system anywhere, Pauline. I searched high and low. I had one ordered and it didn't turn up. And then I pestered for one and it didn't turn up. And then eventually, one of the chaplains went and bought me one. So I was reading this Bible, right, Pauline, in the jail yard, right, where people run around. I could tell you some horrific stories, but people running around doing their thing. And these pips arrived right in front of me, right in front of me, Pauline, and I was like puzzled. Because I knew pips didn't arrive just like that. So I listened. I put my ears into trying to hear. And what I heard was disgusting, Pauline. Absolutely disgusting. The governess of the whole New South Wales jail system was in the Cessnock jail, Pauline. And she must have travelled there at some purpose, because this is now pips, with big pips. You know, like big executive type, commission type people responsible for certain things, Pauline. And I watched her walking across the yard with two men in suits. So I was like a bit puzzled. So I listened in. And what I heard was contracts being organised by the governess of the New South Wales Correctional Services for private industry, Pauline. Private industry to take on the inmates of this ship as their staff, Pauline. Slavery. Selling the inmates to private industry so the inmates can do certain contracted jobs in warehouses next to the prisons. See, so they don't make license plates. And in the old days, they used to make train seats and bus seats and things, right? Now, the governess is contracting that out to private industry. I watched it with my own eyes. I heard it with my own ears. Totally heard it with my own ears on the grounds in the Cessnock prison. Jail. Is it prison or a jail? So New South Wales is selling prisoners to private businesses, and I watched the governess invite those private industries into the jail to witness and look at what they might be signing into a contract. I purchasing the use of slaves, Pauline. Purchasing the use of slaves, Pauline. I won't mention company names, but don't they make beds at Cessnock for some private company? I heard they do that in Queensland as well for a different private company. Beds, Pauline. Beds. Not for hospitals, not for the state itself, for private businesses that then sell those things to the public, Pauline. Sell those things to the public. Or the private, I mean. What's the private again? Well, what is that private, Pauline? These are real big questions when you're selling the people to private industry. In a prison industry that's demonstrated to have been abused. Wherein people that don't comply with all of this get the jibby-jabby inside that forensic mental health. Proven. Defined specifically on the court record, Pauline. But I mean, I really don't understand how you can't comprehend this in your line of authority. In your line of authority. I mean, you do hold a line of authority, don't you? To be able to poison people inside forensic mental health. Do you have that line of authority to poison people against their will? For understanding things? Like you use the prison systems for a money maker on behalf of private industry, when the prison industry itself is private industry. And now we have to look at how prisoners get into this private industry. It's that police force, Pauline. It's totally that police force, Pauline. Red flag, red flag, red flag, jail. Red flag, red flag, red flag, magistrate that doesn't like people that speak up, jail. I mean, we've seen it over and over and over and over and over again. You never ever let the ward say a word. Lawyer has to represent that persona, doesn't he? Man can't present for himself here. Needs lawyer to do it against a police prosecutor who's tied to the prosecution in The Hague. I mean, aren't they all part of the International Association of Prosecutors based in The Hague? So you've got a private prison industry that sells its inmates to private industry, and then you've got a police industry that is designed to entrap wards of the state at paupers, Pauline, that you keep poor, that you keep poor, because the car, right, the car here. The state wants the car because man of God tried to do the right thing, register the car with the state, making the man of God a pauper with the state. Oh, I'm trying to work this out, Pauline. Oh, I showed you I had 30 pieces of silver. I'm totally trying to work it out. And you're not allowing that to occur when you lie, con, thieve, abuse, incarcerate, then use those people as slaves, as literal slaves on slave trade ships, where correctional services officers admitted to me that at the last bastions of war they'd have to go down to the harbour and protect the real ships, as opposed to those prison ships on the land connected to the roadways. Are we in safe harbour, Pauline? I don't feel safe is what I'm saying to you. I haven't felt safe since I saw war criminals abuse me, threaten me, attempt to jab me. And then, 5 years later, watch them do it to another Australian. Physically, and send them off to Long Bay Medical Hospital to make it seem like you're doing the right thing there. When it's more like arcane asylum, right? It is, isn't it? Where you push people to the limit and then they react and then you go, oh, look at that. He needs more. This the evil you are, Pauline. And the people should be waking up to it. The only way out of it is to mock you for doing it. You did it. On the floor. Wipey, wipey. Oh, I saw that with my own eyes, Pauline. You tried to drug me. You tried to drug me. You, Australia, tried to drug me. New South Wales Police, Corrective Services and Forensic Health New South Wales attempted to. And what stopped them, Pauline? What stopped them? Words. The law. Truth. Reality. I'll give you a wedding signature on a piece of paper, giving you the authorization to go through my whole record. That won't be necessary. Why not? You're trying to jab me. Well, why not, Pauline? You're trying to jab me. You got a nurse in the doorway there going, and you're saying that won't be necessary. But you got to this point of trying to jab me, Pauline. You literally called in a psychiatrist and sat me down before a psychiatrist who then said they won't be necessary. So when does the judgment of mine start? Or had it already started? Push, 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 react. See, he is one of those people. Push, 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 react. See, he is a belligerent. Push, 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 react. See, this is what your modus operandi is, Pauline. And you didn't get those reactions, did you? You got someone observing and listening to a governess walking across a yard in New South Wales Correctional Services facility, selling those prisoners' hours, sweat labour, to corporations, Pauline. To real corporations, not the state. We aren't talking about licence plates, are we? We're not talking about bus seats or train seats, are we? We're talking about beds for private companies. We're talking about machine shops for private companies. At what point is this not human trafficking? At what point is this not the slave trade on a ship? At what point is this not a takeover of the country and the use of its people as literal slaves, Pauline? And being called out at it. Because you did it to me in 2015, you did it to another guy in 2020, and Justice Lonergan totally saw, and David Helpham got used as propaganda on the media. Now, who drove all of this, Pauline? Who's behind it all? Whose ability to pull ScoMo strings? Whose ability to pull elbow strings? Whose ability to pull a magistrate strings? Whose ability to use the ABC as a propaganda machine and get caught out at it? Because didn't we have that Paul Farrell incident where he tried to set us up as sovereign citizens? Sovereign citizens, Pauline. There's that ideology again that comes from the police. Came from the police in the first place, and now it's on the TV. So it's propaganda to try and keep the sheep asleep, or they woke. What happens when they wake up and realise the evil that you are and how you've ripped them all off? Is this the rush to put them into digital ID for everyone, right? Well, what happens if you don't carry a phone around? What happens when they realise this is the actual human trafficking, Pauline, and the actual slavery, Pauline, and the cameras and the AI and everything is actually a crime. This is not your prison. You're the war criminals. And you think all of this stuff you can push on people by your hidden masters. Your hidden masters that allowed 27 pedophiles to be swept under the rug. I think you should name them all. I think Cossack should stand on the other side of the post now and name everything. I honestly do. Because this is where we've come to, isn't it, Pauline? The total realisation by a people what you totally are as governance and the evil that you represent. Who do you serve? Who do you serve? By oath and a line of authority to what? To whom? How do these executives control? How does the Federal Executive Council overtake the powers of the Cabinet? How does the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Office get merged together, Pauline? How does the state get to fine people in a bid to keep them poor? How does the state even get away with just cameras on the road, Pauline? Just cameras. You know, that's extortion, and you allow it to occur. You extort the people to keep them poor, and then when they stand up because they're not poor, you won't allow that either. So you disobey the word of God, and then you oppress people that follow that word to the point where you've committed heinous international war crimes, and now you want to act like they didn't occur. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Try and paint someone as something, I don't know what. Let's find out, shall we, what these police officers' minds actually believe as versus reality, Pauline. As versus true, actual reality, Pauline. Right? I know for a fact. We're talking about real evil here when a governess is openly parading corporate interests around the inside of a jail to sell those corporate interests, the sweat labour of those prisoners, Pauline. Of those prisoners. You let someone in that had eyes and ears to hear and see. And he saw. You're slave traders, Pauline. You are slave traders, operating out of a foreign crown for foreign interests with foreign elitist monetary powers controlling you instead of you following the word of God. The word of the estate, the crowned estate that you infiltrate and take over and abuse the people in, and then use their sweat labour in taxation. Well, what are those taxpayers, Pauline? Oh, I mean the working class. Oh, I mean the poor. Oh, I mean those slaves, those prisoners. To you keeping them poor. To you keeping them poor. Isn't that a criminal offence, keeping someone poor? By means of force and manipulation and deception. Deception, don't forget deception. I watched that cretin Bill Shorten in Parliament there. I've got a photo of that day. He was addressing all the school children of the state. And after he did that, well, while he did that, he slipped and said, oh, I'd like all of the poor, I mean the working class, to be able to own a home. But we get kept poor by the state, Pauline, by the state, Pauline. They want the car for doing nothing wrong, Pauline. How the poor are able to do anything when you've got kids nowadays just giving up on the hope of ever owning a home because of what you've done. Because of what you've done, Pauline. What you've done, Pauline. You took that oath. You acted that way. You didn't speak the truth. Attorney General's Department should be pretty busy with all of those complaints. Corruption, right? Corruption. There's a lot of corruption going on. A lot of accountability that needs to be dealt with, Pauline, under the Accountability Act 2013 and that Attorney General's corruption thingy. Everyone should report you all. Everyone should report you all. I mean, all the things that you do to corrupt society and corrupt the business and corporate interests of this country, and then to corrupt the whole entire security and judicial foundation of the very country itself. In the Constitution, Pauline. I mean, these criminals should just be brought to account, don't you think? Don't you think? Who's behind Elbow, Pauline? Who are the shadow men, Pauline, running the country instead of the people, Pauline? Who are the shadow men, Pauline? That they saw to jabbing people who stood up in a line of authority that agreed in international law. That makes that an international war crime. War crime. War crime, Pauline. I'll leave it at that. War crime. War. This is crime time. Isn't it, Jacinta? Look at your people declaring and not knowing the battlefield. That's interesting. Take up a corporation. Take up those foreign monetary interests instead. This isn't war, Pauline. It's fraud. It's fraud, Pauline, where you're abusing the people and their sweat labour in an act of slavery. So it's a bit worse than fraud. It's deception for fraud.